Hello and welcome to the Voice of Iron, and in this session, we'll be talking about the Locust Light Battlemech. First, I'll be going over the canon information that we know about the Locust from SARNA, including its variants, and then I'll be giving my personal thoughts on it and some stories. Description: the Locust was one of the most common battlemechs in existence, having been in continuous production since the design was first introduced by Bergen Industries in 2499. One of the smallest mechs ever built, the Locust was designed exclusively for reconnaissance and quick strike missions, using its then phenomenal speed to outrun most enemies. In a situation where it was unable to outrun its enemies, the mech did have a light array of weapons with which to defend itself, but the Locust lacked the firepower, or staying power, to be a true frontline combatant, and as a result, few mech warriors enjoyed piloting Locusts. Within its weight class, though, the Locust was considered an excellent mech, overshadowed as a scout only by designs which mounted jump jets. Often, when a Locust engaged in combat, it was as a holding action until reinforcements could arrive, although when operating in groups of 3 they could swarm lone enemy mechs that were separated from friendly support. Bergen Industries built Locusts from 8 different factories, and supplied the Star League and its member states right through to the Ameris Civil War. During the Succession Wars, the number of manufacturers increased, and the design was being built in nearly a dozen factories, including ones in the periphery. The wide variety of manufacturers meant production costs for the mech were low and parts were widely available, leading to everyone from lowly pirates to corporate defense forces buying Locusts in large numbers. It also led to many different variants of the Locust, including a failed Davian version mounting a PPC, although those in the periphery were largely limited to building the original LCT-1V model. As the Succession Wars wound down, those manufacturers within the successor states began to experiment with new and rediscovered technology to build updated versions of the Locust. The Capellan Confederation in particular modified the Ares facility to build the LCT-1L variant of the Locust, with a version of the triple-strength Myanmar that wouldn't catch on fire. Other updated variants, including the LCT-3D, the LCT-3M, and the LCT-3S, were introduced just in time to take part in the Klan invasion. After the war, the Word of Blake approached Corian Enterprises about creating a new Locust variant for their militia, agreeing to buy the entire first production run to assuage the company's misgivings. The various periphery powers, still largely reliant on the Locust, also began fielding updated variants of their own, although none of the great houses were much interested in revitalizing the line. Even into the 32nd century, though, the Locust continues to be produced and used out in the periphery. Manufacturers. The following manufacturers produced the Locust at some time. Models and planets are noted where known. Vincor Industries was licensing its Locust variants to other companies by 3067. Bergen Industries has produced the Locust throughout its history, even licensing it to the 4 periphery powers before the Ameris coup. On Ares, the 1V was in production from its introduction through at least 3054, by then being produced in limited numbers for triple-strength Myanmar testing using its 1L refit production. The 1E was introduced in 2811, commissioned by the Capellan government to reduce dependence on ammunition, and production of the 1VB was revived during the Jihad. The variant produced in 3080 was not specified. Bergen produced its 7V during the Il Clan era. The 7V2 is presumably a refit or production variant of the Bergen product. On New Earth, the 1VB Royal SLDF model was produced from its introduction in 2610, ceasing during the collapse of the Star League. Ashanar Battlemechs' main facility was on New Avalon. The West Fabrication facility on Ashanar was a longtime producer of industrial mechs before its capture by the Word of Blake, who converted the plant to produce the Osprey. The plant was destroyed in June 3077. The WFF facility produced the 5W variant before its destruction, and the New Avalon facility was producing the 3D in 3050 and in 3054. They purchased the 5M license from Corian, with production starting in 3067. Alliance Defenders Limited produced the 1V in 3025, 3050, and 3054. The 3080 production model is not known. Bordello Military Goods Incorporated was producing an unspecified variant on Antwerp in 3080. Clan Ghost Bear salvaged the Locust line on Al Shane after its conquest, producing the 1V by 3054. Corian Enterprises McAdams Suharno produced the 3M in its Stewart plant in 3050 and 3054. The 5M was part of Project Phoenix Revival, with the Horde of Blake receiving the entire first production run during the early Jihad. The 6M was in production there by 3071 and still going through 3085. The model produced in 3080 is unknown, though the 5W2 is in production by 3085. Defiance Industries produced the 3S on Farillo in 3050 and in 3054. The 5S was a Jihad-era design, and the version produced in 3080 is again not specified. But near the start of the Ilklan era, they introduced the 7S. Diplas Battlemechs produced the 1V on Timbuktu until the SLDF invasion of the Rimworld's Republic. Gibson Federated Battlemechs produced the 3M at its Gibson facility in 3050 and in 3054. Interstellar Armaments on Rock Welwan was producing the 1V in 3145. Majesty Metals and Manufacturing produced the ubiquitous 1V in 3025, 3050, and 3054. Heck, MMM was producing one or more variants on Canopus 4 and Dwaneshire in 3080. Pinard Protectorates Limited on Mackley Odds Land was still producing the 1V in 3050 and 3054, and 3080 PPL was producing an unspecified variant. Protectorate Military Industries on Arid's Escape was producing an unspecified variant in 3145. Rim Motors on Ottisburg was producing an unspecified variant on 3145. Taurus Territorial Industries on Taurus itself was producing the 1V in 3050 and 3054. In 3080, TTI produced an unspecified variant. The site or even producer is not always known or specified in available documents, but the Marian Hegemony was fielding the 1V2 by 3067, although its source was unknown. The Magistracy of Canopus and Tarian Concordat were producing the 5V by 3067, and the Periphery-born 5T was in use by the Capellans by 3085. The use of machine gun array implies a Tarian origin. But what did the original look like? Well, for weapons and equipment, the main weapon of the LCT-1V Locust was a single Martel medium laser, mounted in the center torso. Backing this up were two Sperry Browning machine guns, which effectively deterred infantry attacks against the Locust's vulnerable legs. These were located in either arm and fed by a 1-ton ammo bin located in the center torso. Lacking hand actuators, the Locust was vulnerable to other mechs when engaging in close combat. The primary asset of the Locust was its speed, using a 160 rated fusion engine to attain a cruising speed of 86.4 km per hour and a top speed of 129.6 km per hour. This speed is necessary for the mech's survival, since 4 tons of armor means the Locust can be quickly crippled or destroyed by direct hits. The standard engine-mounted 10 heatsinks are sufficient in most cases, although those variants which mount more energy weapons can suffer. And now, all the variants that we know of. The LCT-1E. Developed by Bergen in response to Capellan requests for a Locust in greater punch and lower munition consumption as the First Succession War shifted to lower level rating, the LCT-1E Locust was introduced in 2811. Among the least produced variants, the Energy Locust carried an entirely laser-based weapons assortment with 2 Martel medium lasers and 2 Magna small lasers mounted in the arms. This choice allowed Capellan mech warriors to overcome the mech's limited firing arc by flipping its weaponry between forward and rearward arcs at will. The LCT-1L Locust was an attempt to allow the mech to operate at even higher speeds by adding triple-strength myomer to the design. Introduced in 3030, the weapons were identical to those of the LCT-1V, as it was a testbed for the technology by Bergen Industries' Ares plant. The LCT-1M was a long-range version of the Locust built for the Federated Suns in 2571. This variant carried 2 LRM-5 launchers in place of the machine guns and 1 ton of reloads at the cost of 3 tons of armor protection. The LCT-1S Locust, built for the Lyran Commonwealth in 2567, also replaced the machine guns, this time with two SRM-2 racks with 1 ton of reloads for a heavier close-range punch. This came at the cost of 1 ton of armor protection. Now, the LCT-1VC Clan-Tech retrofit of the classic Locust was intended for a second line and Solagma troops. The Locust C replaced each of the arm-mounted machine guns with a Clan ER small laser, which frees up the weight to replace the center medium laser with a Clan-grade medium pulse laser, but leaves the structural components of the LCT-1V unaltered. The LCT-1VB, the Royal Locust, introduced in 2610, mounts a small pulse laser and medium pulse laser in each arm, while keeping the torso-mounted medium laser. It also uses an XL engine, endosteel chassis, and ferrofibrous armor, and the single heat sinks have also been upgraded to double heat sinks. The LCT-1V2 Locust was a periphery upgrade of the design introduced in 3066 for the Marian hegemony. While still carrying the center-mounted medium laser, it mounted 4 RL-10s in place of the machine guns. The LCT-3D Locust, introduced in 3049, used Starlink technology to take the concept of the 1M further. Although it carried only 2 Magna Longbow 5 LRM-5 launchers, the engineers at Ashinar Battlemechs on New Avalon upgraded the armor to ferrofibrous and the structure to endosteel. Completely lacking in close-range weaponry, this variant was suitable for harassing the enemy at long range, then fleeing before they could get too close. The LCT-3M Locust was built for the Free Worlds League in 3050, with production carried out at both Korean Enterprises on Stewart and Free Worlds Defense Industries on Gibson. It retained the Martel medium laser, but replaced the machine guns with 4 Magna small lasers and added a Volker's Parasol anti-missile system in the left arm for missile defense. The armor was upgraded to Callan FWL Special ferrofibrous with case in the left torso to protect the 1 ton of AMS ammo, and utilized a Corian 2 Deluxe endosteel chassis. The electronics were also upgraded to Garrett T-10B communication system and a Corian CalcMaster targeting tracking system. The LCT-3S Locust, constructed on Farillo by Defiance Industries in 3049, carried the 1S upgrade further. This time, as with the 3M, the structure used endosteel and the armor used ferrofibrous, but the SRM-2s were upgraded to Coventry T4H Streak SRM-2s while the medium laser was kept. The LCT-3V Locust variant, introduced in 3004, was similar to the 1V, except that it carried a set of 2 medium lasers in the center torso while retaining the arm-mounted machine guns. The additional armament comes at the cost of half a ton of machine gun ammunition and half a ton of armor protection. The LCT-5M was a straightforward enhancement of the 3M model, keeping the construction and electronics improvements while upgrading all of the lasers to extended range models, giving it 1 Magna Mark IV ER medium laser and 4 Magna Mark IV ER small lasers. In addition, the use of a Hermes 240 XL engine allowed engineers to upgrade the mech's top speed to 194 kilometers per hour. Designed by the Word of Blake, each of their Level 3 units had at least 1 5M Locust after its introduction in 3066. The LCT-5M2 was a Dark Age variant of the Locust that had a top speed nearing 170 kilometers per hour. It carries an ER medium laser in the center torso and a medium pulse laser in each arm. It's protected by ferrofibrous armor. The LCT-5M3 variant was also introduced during the Dark Age, and it uses a smaller engine, which reduces the top speed to 140 kilometers per hour, but it adds a half a ton of armor and carries an ER medium laser and each arm and an ER large laser in the center torso. The LCT-5S, developed from the LCT-3S configuration, carries an MML3 in each arm. The higher heat load requires 10 double heat sinks instead of the singles used by the 3S. The medium laser, endosteel chassis, and armor of the 3S remain the same. The biggest drawbacks to this design is apparently its lack of missile ammunition. It only carries a single ton of ammo in a case-protected bay. The LCT-5T upgrade made the Locust into a devastating anti-infantry mech. Built in 3070, it uses an XL engine and ferrofibrous armor to make enough space for 3 light machine guns in each arm. each trio linked to a machine gun array. A half-ton of case-protected ammunition was sufficient for sustained firing, while single heat sinks could handle even the load of the ER medium laser that was of use against hardened targets. The LCT-5V Locust is similar to the 3V Locust, carrying a pair of ER medium lasers, 2 RL-10s, and was protected by ferrofibrous armor. The original LTV-160 engine was used. Built in 3068, its relatively low-tech design made it attractive to periphery powers, namely the Magistracy of Canopus and Tarian Concordat. The LCT-5W. Developed by the Word of Blake in 3076, this Locust uses mask to top out at speeds of over 180 kilometers per hour. It's equipped with a pair of ER medium lasers, TAG, and an improved C3 computer. Light ferrofibrous armor protects the endosteel structure. The LCT-5W2 was developed from a Word of Blake design in 3079. This Locust has a top speed of over 150 km per hour and used mask to provide bursts of speed, topping out at over 180 km per hour. A pair of ER medium lasers provides firepower, while a C3 Slave, Guardian ECM suite, and TAG system provide electronic support. The chassis used endosteel, an Excel engine provides power, and light ferrofibrous armor gives protection, and double heat sinks keep the heat from the weapons under control. The LCT-6M was built in 3071, and the 6M variant used a massive Hermes 280 XL engine to propel it at an astonishing speed of 226.8 kilometers per hour, and was capable of bursts of speed reaching 302 kilometers per hour through a mask system. The 6M used a small cockpit to save weight, with the side effect of making the mech harder to pilot, and utilized ferrofibrous armor to get the most of the light armor the mech carried. It was armed with 2 Magna Mark IV ER medium lasers, which were backed up by a single Magna Mark IV ER small laser. The 6M was produced by Corian Enterprises on Stewart. The LCT-7S, meanwhile, Defiance Industry used this model as a testbed for their Clan Spec XL engine and ER medium laser. The Farillo plant produces this model, which has a top speed of 180 km per hour. An endosteel chassis is protected by 4 tons of ferrofibrous armor, and 10 double heat sinks keep things cool. Like the original Locust, this model carries a machine gun in each arm, fed by a case-protected half-ton ammunition bay. Despite these features, pilots should remember that the Locust is still a scout mech. The LCT-7V was built by Bergen Industries on Ares, and this updated Locust uses a 200-rated light engine to improve survivability and reach a top speed of 150 km per hour. Protected by 3.5 tons of heavy ferrofibrous armor, the main firepower comes from a medium X-pulse laser in the center torso, and each arm carries a mag-shot Gauss rifle. The Gauss rifles are fed from a 1-ton ammunition bin in the center torso. Endosteel is used to provide weight savings needed for this equipment. And finally, the LCT-7V2, which was based on the LCT-7V, but this model replaces the weapons completely. Each arm mount has an ER small laser, while the center torso carries a light PPC, which turned the Locust into a light sniper that can reposition itself quickly. And now, for personal notes. I want to start my personal notes about the Locust with one of the more interesting designs that I cooked up with a buddy of mine. This is a custom little job that I started by taking the platform of the Locust LCT-1V, so your standard boy. I stripped out the machine guns, and in its place, I replaced a lot of weight, so I had to strip out some of the armor as well, to place a single Myron Model D burst fire autocannon 2 and a half-ton of ammunition for it. This thing is a running AC-2 platform with just enough space on the opposite side or in the center torso to keep the medium laser. At the moment, it has a diverse optics Type 20 medium laser on it. We have called this variant El Stupido because it is... oh man, is it... it's dumb. It's dumb, but in the best way possible. It is a tiny little thing that really cannot survive on its own. It'll only take a lucky shot to just kill it outright, but this thing will run circles around something, blasting it with an AC-2 and a medium laser until it's dead. It's a fun, goofy design. El Stupido is one of my favorite mechs to run with my buddy, just for the sake of it. By the way, for anyone curious, this is a different buddy that I play with. It's not the same as the one that I built the custom Panther for, the mini Griff, that I mentioned in the other video. At some point, I'll have to tell you more about those runs, maybe in a rant or something. But in short, the Locust is a very versatile platform because you can do stupid things like make El Stupido. It reminds me of way back in MechWarrior 4 when I managed to get a flea to carry a clan Gauss rifle. It's like a clan light Gauss rifle. But there is just something very satisfying and fun about taking a tiny little 20-ton platform and then sticking a stupidly large gun on it. But you can also do something, pretty, I don't want to say meta, but pretty fun, or should I say more useful with a platform as well. The 3V, for instance, is actually a very, very useful design because of the twin medium lasers in the center torso, which, they're harder to lose than just having your arms shot off. Yeah, you gotta have line of sight, but honestly, if you're playing a video game like MechWarrior 5, you're probably not flipping the arms behind you. It's way less useful in the tabletop, but it is pretty useful in something like a video game. And honestly, if you're actually piloting one of these things, if you're sitting in the seat, I would have a hard time aiming behind me because the cockpit is shaped forward. Like, good luck, man. But anyway, my point is that the Locust is a fun and very versatile platform. When I found out that the 1M existed, when I found out that there was a twin LERM 5 carrying missile boat variant of this 20-ton mech, I was floored in the best way possible. I immediately had to get one. It was such a fun time to drive around and be this little missile boat. I got shot like twice and nearly died. It was great. I believe at the end of my first mission with, running the missile boat variant, I was limping on a single leg. I had no armor left. My core was red. It was great. I think I lost both of those LERM 5s in that engagement. It was fun. It was a lot of fun. And I will not apologize for really liking a fun little build. Yeah, it's not terribly effective, but I mean, to the same degree, I'm a fan of things like the Urban Mech just because of that underdog level. Heck, in Warhammer 40k, I play Grots, unironically, because I think they're fun. They are not useful in many capacities, and they are very underpowered. But that's kind of the fun of it, is to see what you can do with it. And the Locust is just the epitome of that. It is dirt cheap, in-universe with C-Bills and out-of-universe with BV. And even without custom mechs, there's usually a variant for everything. There's a LERM variant, there's an all-energy variant. I dare not call it an energy tank variant, but less worry about an ammo explosion. There's the classic variant with the machine guns. I'm sure there's a flamer variant out there. I don't remember reading about one, but the point is, you can do 1,000,001 things with the Locust, and that's what makes it so fun. It is 20 tons that can run up and do whatever you need. Some of them are close range, some of them are long range, some of them are just designed to run in and leave. Most of them are designed to run in and leave, I'm not gonna lie. Even if they're ambushers or attackers, you're either using them for scouting or ambushing. I would not use this thing as a tank. But in short, the Locust is just an absolutely beautiful piece of work. And when it comes to the light mechs of Battletech and MechWarrior, it is ubiquitous because, everybody uses this thing. It's everybody. You heard that entire list of all of the companies that licensed this and all of the factories that produce it. You can find this thing anywhere in the inner sphere and out of the inner sphere. The clans have it, the periphery has it. And that's a great thing. I personally do very much like when a country has its own specific mechs. The Fafnir is probably my favorite mech of all time, and that's pretty much exclusive to technically the Federated Commonwealth, but it's Steiner. It's just Steiner, really. Obviously there's exceptions, but in short, if you're not a Steiner player, you better have a good excuse for why you have a Fafnir. But the Locust? Anyone can have that. And I like that. Anyone can have it. There's a variant that can do just about anything, and I've had a lot of fun in my own personal games, whether it be on the table or in the video games, just messing with it, just making custom variants or running it as is, and just trying to see what exactly I can accomplish with this little 20-ton champion. I love this. Not the champion mech, by the way. It's a little champ, is what I'm trying to say. Point is, The Locust is a fantastic little mech. It is real bang for your buck. You know, all 20-tonners are cheap, but this is a 20-tonner that I feel every single C-bill spent on it, every BV spent on it is worth it. You compare this to something like a Flea, which is slower. It is sometimes more heavily armed, but it's way less armored. I mean, I'll talk about the Flea at some point in the future, but you stack these two side by side, there's no competition. The Locust blows it out of the water pretty much every time. Almost every variant. Almost. And it's a lot of fun. So, that's my little ramble. Oh my gosh, I think this is going to be close to a 30-minute video. I don't know whether to apologize or say thank you. Well, I'm going to say thank you. But, yeah, this is the Locust. It is a fantastic mech, and if I had to sum up and TLDR everything that I just said, it has a lot of variants. Everybody's got one. Everybody can use one. It's got some variant for everybody, and frankly, it's just a good mech. Anyway, that concludes the reading and rant on the Locust, and thank you all for listening to my voice.